Hey everyone, this is Big Mike, and this is my Swamp Thing review and also speculation video. So, what I want to talk about today is actually my review of the Swamp Thing series for DC Universe, and also speculation of why it was canceled, and rumors about what we've heard so far. So, let's start by doing the review. The series was great. I mean, I absolutely love this series. Well, the first maybe 4 or 5 episodes were fantastic. The rest of it, it kind of fell off a little bit, but it still wasn't bad. It was still a very interesting show. Very good character development. I love the direction they were going in. I love the horror aspect in the first few episodes. Like, I was not expecting it, especially in like the first episode. I'm gonna do a non-spoiler review, so I don't want to give too much away. But like the things that were happening, and people were kind of like the getting infected with this plant virus, and what they were turning into. I mean, the special effects, it was really decent for a show of this caliber, and I mean, it was pretty horrific, especially like the first few episodes. I thought it was a really good show. I really liked Swamp Thing as well as a character. I'm old enough to remember the first couple of Swamp Thing movies back in the day, back in the 80s. Like The Return of Swamp Thing. I don't know why I like that movie so much. I guess it's the kid in me, and I saw it so much when I was a kid. It was just really funny. I really like those movies, even though they're very campy if you rewatch them now. But yeah, this series really took a turn from the originals. And I mean, it went really serious, dark, but not too dark in a way where it's just like, oh my god, this is depressing. It was actually really interesting. The character development, like I said, was really good. It was really there. I loved the effects they did with Swamp Thing. I love how he had that internal battle of, am I still Alec Holland? Am I human? What am I? You know, all of these things. How do I go from here? All of those questions, you know, that he was asking himself in his inner turmoil, which we know is a huge part of the Swamp Thing mythos. I thought it was a really good series. So now let's get into the speculation of what we know. So the first season was canceled like the day the first episode premiered. So the first episode premieres, and then Warner Brothers comes out and say, well, that's it, it's canceled. A lot of people were upset because it had received critical acclaim, and fans were actually raving about it as well, me being one of them. So it was a big surprise. The first rumor was that where they were filming in North Carolina, that the budget got screwed up somehow and they couldn't afford to do it anymore. So that was debunked apparently by Warner Media. And then their excuse was, it was a conflict of interest, or the show wasn't going in the right direction that they wanted it to go in, or whatever that was supposed to mean. So that leads me back to, like, if you watch my Marvel versus DC video, that actually takes back, it's in the same vein as that, where it's like the Warner Brothers execs really don't know what they're doing. I really believe, like, they're shooting themselves in the foot. You have a property here that was very well received, and the first thing you do is just cancel it because, I don't like what they're doing here. It doesn't matter if you don't like what they're doing here. This is what the fans want. So anyway, the conflict of interest thing, that was the excuse. From what also I heard that might be speculation, is that they kind of wanted to go more in a direction of how the CW shows are going. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm a fan of Arrow. I'm a fan of Flash. I think Supergirl's a pretty good show. Legends, I never really got any traction with Legends. It just never interests me enough to where I could watch consistently. So the Arrowverse, I don't have a problem with. I even like the crossovers. I really enjoy the Arrowverse. However, let's get something different. Like with the the Titans show that's on DC Universe. I really enjoyed that show. Doom Patrol I thought was pretty good as well. And Swamp Thing was also really good. So if you're building your own thing in DC Universe, you still could have had kind of your own Arrowverse, but your more mature version of it on DC Universe. Which brings me to yet another rumor. So we do know that Warner Media is going to have their own streaming service trying to rival that of Disney Plus. That's my speculation, is they're going to try and rival that. So they do have a lot of content that they can put on their streaming service as well, because Warner Media does have a lot of content. They were recently purchased by AT&T, and that was one of the things that AT&T was saying, that they wanted to do their streaming service. Now, that also left DC Universe kind of up in the air, or like, they don't know what they're doing with it yet. It's still a fledgling service. I don't know the numbers and how well it's doing. I mean, I'm a subscriber. I actually like DC Universe. I like their content. I watch it. I subscribe to it. So I don't know if they wanted to do a separate, thing, because that would be kind of redundant to say, okay, we have this Warner Media streaming service and then DC Universe over here. So if that's true, that does make sense that they could bring DC Universe under the fold of the Warner Media streaming service once that comes out. But that still doesn't mean, or it beckons the question, why cancel the show and not just bring it under the fold of Warner Media? So like I said, it still brings me back to, I really don't think Warner Brothers knows what to do with their DC projects properly. I think they need to really sit down and plan out everything, kind of like how Marvel's doing, like I said in my Marvel versus DC video, to where Kevin Feige and the Marvel Studios people, they literally plan out their universe for the next few years, in advance. I believe they have everything planned out until 2022 or even beyond that. So I think Warner Brothers needs to really take a look at themselves and try and mimic, not necessarily exactly to the letter what Marvel Studios is doing, but kind of like their formula, what works. And what really works is listening to the fans. The fans have a lot to do with it, and I think that's what Marvel Studios does. Marvel Studios says, okay, what do our fans want to see? And they try and give the fans the content that they want to see. I think Warner Brothers, their executives sit up in their little boardroom and look at numbers and say, well, what sold here and what had the best numbers here and this had good numbers here. That all the time doesn't mean the same thing. Like, numbers doesn't mean success. It's like, oh, well, these numbers are good because it was this kind of movie. No, what you do is you get some fresh blood in there and you listen to what they want, and that's what the content you put out. I mean, it's kind of that simple. It's not really rocket science. So that kind of proves my point, especially with the cancellation of Swamp Thing. It's just kind of like, man, they really had something here, especially the setups they had. They were building, a remarkable villain. They even were hinting towards more. They were even hinting towards more heroes, like even, obscure ones at that, but like Blue Devil. They were going to, I think the initial premise of the show, or they were trying to build like for the Dark Justice League, or Justice League Dark. Man, they could have really got something there, especially with how good Swamp Thing was. They really could have built up Justice League Dark, and we already know Constantine is very, very, fan friendly. Everyone likes Matt Ryan as Constantine, and they would have loved to see him back and mix into this world with Swamp Thing, for Justice League Dark. It really would have worked. You could have brought in Dr. Fate. You could have went Zatanna. Bring all those characters in and have the Justice League Dark. I just felt like, with this show being very, very good, in my opinion, that in canceling this show, Warner Brothers and DC really dropped the ball. So, if you saw the show, let me know what you think. Drop your comments down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and hit that bell for all the notifications of my latest content. As always, thank you for watching, and see you next time.